How's my cuts hoodie look? Hi guys, welcome back to the classroom. If you find this video or any other video on this channel helpful, please support and hit that like and subscribe button. But for this video today, I spent a good chunk of this last week DPing a music video that I cannot wait to show all of you. But I was lighting one scene and the lighting on it just looked very flat. It lacked a lot of contrast. It just wasn't too enticing. And at the end of the day, we did get the shot. We did get the lighting right, but it brought an idea to my head for, I guess, the motivation for this video. And that topic is finding a way to create contrast on walls that don't typically have a lot of contrast, or creating texture on your walls with your lighting. And oftentimes when you're shooting on flat blank walls, white walls, gray walls, or walls without wallpaper, just something very flat and bland, when you shine light on it, the light is just going to reflect off of that. It's going to be very obvious that there is a source there. So by breaking that up and adding some texture to your light, you really do a good job of adding some depth, some visual interest, and making everything just look a little bit more natural. So I put together this nighttime interior shot just to show you guys a few different ways, definitely not all the ways, but a few different ways to add texture to your lighting. So for those who are curious of how I lit this scene, let's go over that very briefly. On the outside, I had that moonlight glow coming from the bathroom window in the background down the hallway. And to do that, I put Shears up because Shears do a great job of kind of absorbing any light and adding a nice glow. And outside of the window, I used an aperture nova, and I had that at 5600 Kelvin, just pointing straight in on the shears. I didn't have diffusion because it's a very soft light as it is. So that was our motivation for some moonlight outdoors. And then moving into that back room where you see Sarah just come in and open the closet door, I just had an aperture 300X with a little lantern on there to soften up the light source, motivated by the light switch turning on and just an overhead light. So I had that at 2700 Kelvin, a little bit of contrast, some warm light going from the moonlight, and it made it very easy with Sidus Link. As she came in and flipped the switch, I just took Sidus Link and I turned that light on as she turned that light on and off. Just makes it a little bit easier on my end. And then also with another warm light, just to balance out the moonlight that's actually in this main room, I took an aperture B7C bulb and I put it to 2700 Kelvin as well, and put that in that lampshade that you see camera right. So now we've got a little bit of balance there. And then our light that we're going to be focusing on today, our motivated moonlight, is an aperture 300D Mark II. I really only had that at about 15%. Don't need a lot of brightness at all for this scene. And we had a Fresnel 2X attachment on that. And this is the really key part to get this texturized light, which is working with hard light. You want to make sure that your light source is a relatively hard and small light source, because that's when you're going to get these shadows. And when you have soft light, you want to get rid of shadows with soft light. So this light source will just kind of round off any of the shadows, any of the texture we're going for. So make sure you're working with a hard light source on this, which I am, the 300D with it for now. And I do want to note that my camera's white balance was set to about 4000, because I know a lot of you are going to ask, and I always forget to mention the white balance. 4000 on my camera, right in between that cool night and the warm tungsten. So with this light that you see, our main motivated moonlight, it's very obvious that there is a light hitting on the wall. It's very hot, the wall is just bright and even, and it looks like there's a light there. So I want to break up some texture, or bring in some texture, break up that contrast, add some hot spots, some dark spots. And by doing that, the first way that I did it was just went outside, took a few branches, and I brought those inside and just gaff taped them to a couple of arms hanging from stands over the 300D. And I gave it a little bit of distance away from the light source so it wasn't blocking the light entirely. It still had some gaps for the light to cut through, and that immediately adds in a lot of contrast, some interest onto the wall, some texture, and it really makes everything feel a little bit more realistic, as if there is moonlight coming through the branches, coming through the trees, coming through whatever, into the window, into the house. And if you don't have necessarily access to branches or anything like that, or you just want to make it easier on yourself and you've just got a house plant, I've used plenty of house plants before, those nice leafy ones. Or if you got a bush outside of your window and you really want to shine the light through the window, if you're on the first floor, definitely go for that. It makes it a lot easier. But if you're, say, in an apartment building, somewhere where you don't have trees or branches, go get a branch from outside, anywhere you can, Michael's, fake trees, something like that, and bring it in and tape it to the stand like I did here. So that is one option. to add in some texture. And another way to get texture, something I like to do often, is almost faking a window. And what I mean by that is I just got shears, the typical shears like I had over that back window, and I hung those over a C-stand arm and put that again in front of the 300D. So now it's almost like you've got shears over a window and you're punching the light through a window through some shears, but only you know on set where the windows actually are. So now you kind of get the freedom of faking windows or faking direction of light to wherever you want, as long as it's not going to be in frame at any time throughout your project. So by using the shears, they do a great job of, if you bunch them up in certain spots, it creates some dark spots, some light spots, and some texture and different contrast ratios as the light is shining on the back wall. And again, it's breaking it up. It's now making that what once was a very flat wall a little bit more textured, as if there's, you know, how there's texture on a wallpaper or things on the wall, something like that. Now we've got some texture just with our light source on the wall. And before you say it, no, this is not the only way to get texture out of your lighting. There are hundreds of different ways to break apart your lighting. These are just two of the options using what I had immediately on hand. A lot of the times people will use a cookie or a cucaloris or actual window blinds, like those stripped window blinds that you turn up and down and they flap open and close. Those do a great job of creating harsh lines as the light casts through it, or textured glass or stained glass. Really anything that can cut up your light works. And speaking of cuts, I want to talk about the sponsor for today's video, which is Cuts Clothing. Most importantly is because I'm genuinely very impressed with all of their shirts. It's like everything is actually tailored to me, because typically shirts are very baggy on me, but it feels like a very tailored fit. And on top of that, I suck at laundry. It's the truth, I suck at laundry. But since these shirts are pre-shrunk, I don't have to worry about shrinking it again. So that's a lot of stress off your shoulders, and you don't have to be good at laundry ever again. All of their shirts are very minimalistic, perfect for being on set, especially with the black tee. And I shot with Cuts tees all week shooting, and I was not once uncomfortable or hot. I got a few different shirts and a hoodie because hoodies are awesome. Bottom line is, summer is right around the corner. You need some new clothes. This is the perfect time to do so. Check out the link down below and also use code BradyBissett for 15% off. So honestly, texturizing light in the most DIY, budget, whatever you have on hand way possible is the most fun in my opinion. It really challenges you to get creative with what you have. So I'm challenging you to get creative with what you have on hand at home and post that on Instagram using Brady's Classroom. But while doing so, don't forget the reason why we're texturizing light. Don't lose grasp of that. I mean, we're doing it to mask large hot spots or large empty spots of walls and adding some texture and some depth and some contrast into large open areas of your frame. So if you keep that in mind when you're lighting your scene, when you're setting your frame, that's gonna be super crucial. But I did think that this quick yet important lesson about texturizing light would be a great way to take advantage of hard light, since hard light can sometimes be a little bit intimidating. I know we always want the softest light possible, but hard lighting is fun, and I'm coming to learn that more and more each time I use it. So with that being said, go get creative, go texturize your light, and I will see you next week. Class is dismissed.